Welcome back to Vision in the Valley. So glad that you had a chance to stop by. And I wanted to share that some of the episodes are a little more difficult for me than others. And it's kind of interesting because it's probably not what you're thinking. Like some of the episodes that I've shared, which are completely vulnerable and very different, were easier for me to share than some other things. It prompted me to do this particular episode. I wanted to start off by giving you a little bit more of a background of who I am, who I was as a young person or as a young student even. And then I wanted to come back into where I am today. So growing up, I was a gifted student, and because all of my life, that's what I was told. As early as kindergarten, I knew that I was, bright per teachers or whomever, but it didn't really resonate with me what that meant. And by the time that I was in the third grade, things had started to change a little bit for me. And that's when like the California Achievement Test or the Iowa test, the state mandated testing that is done across the board. And based on how well you score, during that time anyway, that's when you would get promoted into a different grade. So in the third grade, they started to notice that I tested into high school level. So the school reached out to my grandmother trying to convince her to allow me to go into high school. So from the third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade, they were very aggressive about trying to convince her. I'm not privy to all of the information. I do remember talking to my grandmother about it, being very disappointed that for a couple of years they'd been trying to reach out and trying to make this thing happen. And I didn't know anything about it until I was a little older. So I was a bit frustrated. But I'll talk about that more in another episode. Today, the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because when you start your life out with a certain perspective, in this case, I'm talking about knowing that I was able to understand some things beyond my age, right? Beyond my scope, being very comfortable with knowing that and then having that be true all of my life. That very thing is an awesome and wonderful gift. It's its favor. But having that also can be very dangerous, if you will, if you use that same logic to order your steps. If you're using that same logic to determine what your next is, instead of it being your next being associated with what the Lord is giving you. And so as I'm learning about myself, as I'm talking to you, I'm reflecting back on what I've done in the past and then how it measures up to where I am now, right? So Sarah Jakes Roberts, you guys, I'm sure you know her, T.D. Jakes' daughter. She's also now pastor for Potter's House. There's a recent sermon where it's called Locked In. And I'm a big fan of hers. I actually didn't follow her at all, didn't listen to the sermons at all. And then one day just started to listen. And she has some fire that is unbelievable. I'm so excited about learning about new people who are on fire for the Lord. And I mean, just in this amazing radical way, right? So I'm a fan, and I've been looking at her sermons online for a few months now. And she had one in particular called Locked In. Now, it got a lot of buzz, I'm sure, especially on social media, which I don't participate in, so I don't know all of the things, but she had taken her wig off. It didn't fall off. She'd actually taken her wig off. I was watching the service when it happened, but she was preaching about having that desire to just be locked in on God. The only reason why I'm bringing this up now is just because I thought how wonderful it was that when in the midst of her wig coming loose, she stayed locked in on the message and the word. And I said to myself, my God, that's what I want. I want to be locked in. I want to be so locked in on the Lord's face. I want to be so locked in the presence of the Spirit that no matter what else is happening around me, And there's a lot happening around me, right? No matter what is happening, that I'm always locked in. And so that just reminds me of another sermon she was preaching. And in this particular case, she was talking about order. And again, I'm really bad. Sometimes I get so caught up in what I'm listening to, I write notes, but then they're not legible because I'm writing so quickly. So I don't know which sermon this was, but she said that if God gave you all of the steps right away, we wouldn't need to come back to him. We'd feel more in control than what we really are. He wants us to come back to him so that he can properly order our steps. I thought that was just prophetic. It was amazing because, and it's so simple, right? But it's so meaningful. If we know everything, and if we were given everything right away, we wouldn't feel the need to go back to him. And so then that cuts out our need for him because he's given us everything. Prophetic, right? It's very simple, but it's prophetic. So then I started to think about me in my mind and how it works and how easily I'll put something together and say, that's what this is. But this whole thing has been about a quest to go up in the spirit, a quest to have a higher discernment, a quest to have the Lord prepare me for something great. I wanted it to be used on a different level, on every single occasion, get the glory out of my life. That has been my quest for these last couple of years. And so this podcast is a product of that, right? With that being said, I'd be remiss if I don't go back and tell you the ending part of this dream. So a while ago, I talked to you all about how the podcast was developed and that I'd heard my own voice outside of my body, up and out, like so above me and outside of my earshot, like I could recognize it. And I happened to be standing on the stairs of my condo, which was the penthouse, right? And when I heard it, I was on the bottom 2 steps or so of the penthouse. When I woke up in the dream, go back and check that out. I won't bore you with all of that by repeating it again. It was a good one. But it right away I said to myself, "Oh yeah, I must be on the radio, or I must be speaking somewhere. I must have written a book and I'm speaking on the TV about the book." And then it was later determined, the Spirit and I got together, later determined that it was for a podcast, which was amazing because from that dream came this. We're in season 4, and to God be the glory. I know I've been able to touch some people's lives. Like I said, they've reached out and they've told me about it. And I feel myself a victory within it because I'm being blessed when I listen back to what I recall to my mind. So it's working. It's a great thing. And then I just looked at the stats. I'm actually international. Didn't even know. So I crack up when pastor tells you you're going to be international. You don't know what that means. I'm thinking to myself, it can't be me because what I'm doing, I'm not looking to be on an international scale. But I looked at my stats and I'm actually in Canada, being listened to in Canada and in Jamaica, and Africa is going to be next. But this is wonderful because it came from a dream. I'm so used to things like that happening that I almost rely on myself, right? And we know we're not to rely on our own understanding. We know this. But because of how fluent a thing will happen for me, I get stuck in that space that I was like in the 3rd grade because certain things happen easily for me. So I got stuck in a rhythm of saying, oh, that's what it is, logically. So even when something happens for me fluently, spiritually, I still have a connection to a logical way. That just makes sense. Because I had the dream, it makes sense that I'm having this podcast. It makes sense that I'm reaching people. So I've been saying I need to go up in the spirit, that I need to go higher. As I go back to the part of me standing on the stairs, I'd always wanted to have the 2nd floor condo as an extension to my 3rd floor penthouse. It was a much bigger thing that I ever really needed. And in the episodes early on, you can hear me talking about how I had a room just for shoes and a room for my makeup and wardrobe. It's a bit ridiculous. And I paid a crazy dollar amount to have both floors. But it was the thing that I wanted. I don't know if I wanted that additional space because of all of what I'd gone through before, where I was on someone's sofa, where I was in a place where there was no furniture and it was just me and a bed. I don't know if all of those things helped to mold what my mind thought was necessary for me, but I knew that I wanted the space. And so when I had the dream, I made it about me having the upstairs and the downstairs. And the Lord allowed me to have it. In having it, I also went into a greater debt that I hate to even talk about. It's a bit embarrassing because I was making really decent money doing something that I was very excited about doing. And I think I did talk about this in another episode where it even impacted how I paid my tithes. So that by itself should have told me this is not a good idea. But I'm going to rest on the part where if you're going to go up in the spirit and be asked to be a lifted vessel, so should your discernment. So back in the third grade, when I tested out into high school level, that's great. But those are all logical things, even still. And the dreams, when they come true and they have these amazing pieces that follow through, it's amazing. But that's still kind of like the logic pattern that I would follow. But going up in the spirit means I can no longer depend on what I've known to be fluent. It's no longer logical. The discernment has to go up as well. And what I failed to do back then is that when the Lord gave me the answer, I wanted to be used. He gave me the answer. He gave me the podcast. He actually gave me my first season without even trying, without me even trying. I had a whole season wrapped up in a series of dreams that I spoke about on many occasions, but my discernment for what was next did not go up. So understand me. I'm literally praying, Lord God, please make me worthy to be used as a lifted vessel. I want to spread your good news. I want to share your word. I want to share my story because I'm a walking miracle. Help me to do that, Lord. I'm saying this and I mean it. And when he's giving me these awesome dreams that later become episodes, in that moment or in those moments, instead of letting my discernment go higher, say, you know what? I'm gonna do exactly what you asked. I'm going to allow you to tell your story, and not just on a small level, but I'm going to have you share it. You're going to share this with the world. And instead of me focusing on the one thing I've been praying about, I finally got the answer. I'm going to connect it to the downstairs because I want to expand my territory. This was during a time when Pastor Hannah was saying your territory is going to be expanded, right? You're going to have an expansion of your territory. So in the flesh, that means the second floor. But in the spirit, it means instead of ministering to one person or your testimony being heard by your family, that it's going to be heard by a couple of families at the same time because they're going to be listening to it. They're going to be listening to it at a barber shop or a beauty salon. They're going to be listening to it on their way to church. They're going to be listening to it on their way to work. Now that's what expanding territory is about. So when you go up in the spirit, when your requests become higher, so should your discernment. So it's almost like if you want to be stuck with the second floor and the third floor, Quan, it's like the Lord was saying, okay, I'll let you have it. But if you're really ready to go up, no walls can hold you. The number of stairs can't be counted. What I'll let you do, what you'll do for me if you take the limits off. So I am just encouraging you all to take the limits off of God and to remind yourself that for everything you ask in his name, that you're doing for him, for his will, and you're trying to walk in your purpose. And I know you are because I feel it. But also ask for a discerning heart, a discerning mind. Ask for people in your space who will help you, people who you can trust, who will help you be able to determine if you're making it work for your selfish reasons, or is the Lord really going to get the glory out of it? So I'm taking my wig off, so to speak, like Sarah, staying locked in on my quest to seek the Lord and to do pleasing work in His eyes, and telling you that in that space of having all of that, which sounded really good, that's not where my focus should have been. He'll say, I can have that. I know that He doesn't limit me by saying, well, you can't have that level. What He's saying is that you follow me, go up, come on and get in this rocket ship. We're going up, and you'll have more than just two levels. I'm learning, and I share with a friend that we know levels like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as I go up higher in the spirit, I thank you, Jesus. As I go higher in the spirit, I am learning that level 1 is just A through Z. And then level 2 is A through Z. And level 3 is A through Z. You feel me? So I am getting ready to go up. Come up with me. I can't wait to talk to you soon.